So let's just start there, right? Dom, what would be your burning question about Mad Lions? I've got a couple, but what's the first thing you think of with this split? Like, what would be your question to Mac about what could have happened or didn't happen or whatever it might be?
I mean, I think it would be a lot about champion select, because this is something that we talked about on this show specifically. Was from the outside, we remember like Kaiser and Elyoya having a specific style, and then also like Kaiser specifically was like the Leona guy last split. That's how I viewed him in 2021 summer and spring. Just looking at stats here over the course of the season, he played 26 games on Leona, 65% win rate. It just felt like it was really in his core set of abilities. Like
he didn't play this split. It wasn't like 2 or something mad.
It was like,
it's pretty small, right?
Let me check. I'm pretty sure it was 1.
It was 1?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it was only 1 game of Leona this split, and he was playing a lot of things that normally wouldn't be seen as like Kaiser champions. So more of like the mid-range champions. And even from talking to other players on the Crackdown, people would always say, oh, Kaiser's real strength is like all-inning, like finding like 2v2 kills and then like roaming the map and actually getting fights started. So from the outside, we were just questioning why your team had this identity, this split, why you guys kind of went away from all the hard engage and like the meta junglers. Like the Xin Leona was something that we were asking a lot about this split. So that would be my first question.
That's a fair question. I think that's a fair question for sure. I think that's something that we like kind of came to the conclusion of later on. I think we had some draft struggles, like trying to make sure that we had everyone playing what they wanted to play at the same time and like having a comp that made sense together sometimes. For like Leona specifically, Kaiser actually just felt that Nautilus was stronger this split, so he played a shit ton of Nautilus. If I remember correctly, like we just felt like Nautilus was a way better blind than Leona. When it comes to jungle picks, I mean, honestly, with draft, I think it's fair that there's some draft criticisms for us because I think we like ping-ponged around trying a lot of different styles.
What was the reason behind that? Like, what was the thinking? Because as you're saying, like the most obvious thing most people would say is, as a coach, if you're having like at the midpoint of the split where it's like a little bit dodgy results, usually the go-to move is the band-aid is reduce the champion pools, right? Find like 3 things someone plays and just build everything around that. Whereas it seemed like you guys were very experimental.
Yeah. I think I definitely take your point there. I think in hindsight we could probably have specialized a bit earlier on like one playstyle. I think in the past, and this is like a balancing thing, I've been really concerned about being a like adaptable team, right? I've had teams that specialized super heavily in the past in pick ban, like for example, Mad Lions 2020. During regular season, like we had one identity for the whole year and we played that identity. Like we dove you at level 3, then we dove you at level 6, and then we played as fast as possible and we stacked dragons. And if we couldn't like get those early dives off, frankly, like we weren't that good. And we had a lot of problems when teams like I remember Fnatic and G2 both basically just picked comps where they were like, we're going to slow down the game as much as possible and do something about it.
Vertical jungle and stuff like that.
Yeah. Or like, I remember, G2 like first picking Yuumi against us, or Fnatic even played Senna Thresh against us. And like the whole point was literally just to like stop us from making plays and diving them. And then like we didn't have any depth as a team. So that's something that I think experimenting during the regular season helps a lot with that, to try to make you a more varied, more adaptable team. I think in hindsight, with 2 rookies on the roster, it's like more difficult to do like such a high amount of experimentation. And I think around halfway through the split, we stopped experimenting so much. Like I think for the last 9 games, I think we played a much more like structurally similar draft in most of the games. Like we tried to play like more facilitated mid lane champions that had like CC and roaming ability. We tried to have Yoya on something high impact. We tried to have Kaiser on engage, generally speaking. We tried to have Unforgiven on hyper carry. I think there was more of a formula in the last 9 games than there was in the first. The first 9 games were experimented a lot, but that's also because I didn't actually know which style was 100% best for our team. And like, we struggled a lot to transition results from scrims onto stage. And when that happened, like it's really easy to lose confidence and be like, okay, we're going to try a different style and see if that works, right? So the first 9 games, I think we experimented a lot. The second 9 games, I think we specialized a bit more. You mentioned Xin Zhao. I think a lot of our thought process in the split was also try to put Elyoya on stuff that has as much agency as possible, to go and carry the game, to go and be aggressive, to go and invade people. And like that's like naturally much more his style is to be a high resource jungler and a jungler that goes and like messes the enemy jungler up, and like he's damn good at that when he plays Viego. He's damn good at that when he plays Lee Sin. And in like carry jungler metas, like he's insane on that. It's insane at that when he plays like Lilia. Towards the end of the split, I think we went back to stuff that had worked for us in the past. Like we played a volley bear game, I think, as well. Honestly, I think for jungle, like we probably could have played Xin Zhao a bit more. I think in hindsight, I think Xin Zhao was actually a little bit broken, to be honest. But that wasn't our read at the time, so we didn't do it. But honestly, like we played a lot of different styles, and it felt like none of them actually worked that well for us, at least in the mid game. I don't think it's really a draft thing. You know, when you have like when you have 6 or 7 games, when you have a 5k gold lead and you lose like 6 of those games or something, then like there's a problem that isn't draft probably.
Right, I have a question, but I want to set it up with some context first, which goes like this, right? People might know I'm obviously quite skeptical, for example, of the play this split of Rika in the mid lane, but I actually less want to ask about Rika and more about sort of the problem of whose shoes he had to fill, because that's the bigger issue to me than what Rika did. Like, it was just his first split. If people don't know, he was a player coming out the RLs. That wasn't a ridiculous pickup. He was someone that was touted by people. In fact, I'd just point to that LEC pop quiz video. Almost every single LEC pro picked this guy to be the rookie of the split. They thought he was going to be very good. So I don't think at all that picking him up was unreasonable. But my problem is this. I think it's less what he is doing. Like, as I say, it's a rookie in his first split. The problem I would ask is this. It's what does not having humanoid, what has that sort of contributed? Because one of the problems when people are in teams is, I mean, it makes for great fodder for talk shows, but you're trying to pick apart like who does what, who is the shot caller, who is the captain of the team, who like stylistically leads the team. Like a classic example would be when G2 went to they got Caps, if people remember. It wasn't just that they replaced him with Nemesis. Nemesis was a good player, but clearly he had some kind of stylistic impact that wasn't the same that Caps's was. I mean, people even said that was part of why Broxah played differently, et cetera, et cetera. So my question would more be, what has it been like not having humanoid? What have the challenges of that been? Because it seems like his entire career, dude, even when he joined Splice, he wasn't just someone people were talking about purely as a mid laner. They were always talking about how he like stylistically impacted the map, how people played around him, etc. So what's been that challenge? Because that must be the tough part, right? Even if you're the champion, you're not actually in Manchester City as an org. You're in one of the orgs where you have to sometimes your best player might get sold and you have to try and re-up, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think humanoid characteristically is an extremely explosive player, and he's always been an explosive player. So like sometimes he would have games where he would just like mega pop off, you know, like you could put him on Akali, and like I don't remember losing that many games on Akali with him. And I remember like every
his shot, does he ask for the champion? Like, give me this now.
What? Sorry.
Is he a kind of guy who asks for the champion? Does he say, give me this now and I'll carry? Because he seems like, there's one thing people never mention about this guy. I'll tell you another thing this guy has in comparison with great players is he has that fuck off attitude of sort of like, yeah, I'm mega, who gives a fuck? He doesn't seem like he gets nervous at all, dude.
No, yeah. He definitely has a big voice. And like for sure, he has a huge impact on team identity. Like he's the type of player where he will just turn around sometimes and be like, we're doing it this way because I said so. Like, this is how we're playing. And so, like, he kind of forces the team to play around him. And he'll do the same in draft, you know? He'll be like, we are first picking Orianna here because it's broken and I'm going to carry the game if you pick me Orianna. So fucking pick me Orianna. And, like, that's the way it is sometimes, right? And so there's a big niche that's a big niche to fill. Because it's like, game philosophy-wise, in terms of, like, when we play fast versus when we play slow was something that he was very good at managing. It's draft-wise, like, you know, he would have really strong opinions on draft of like, no, I'm picking this champion. Like, this is the best champion, first pick with this champ. And finally, what did I say? I said identity, that one. And yeah, like also just general in-game shot calling and like game philosophy, right? So yeah, there's definitely like a big niche there. So it's super different without him, and obviously Rika plays a really different role within the team. As I said, he was much more like naturally he's more of a like push and move facilitator type mid laner, whereas Humanoid was always like a high resource side laning type mid laner. So it's like really different for sure.
I mean, what I would ask you about this situation was like, is that something that Humanoid grew into, or was he always like that from when you first got him? Because you pretty much got to see this guy's whole career up close. So like, was this something that became the case in 2021, or was he like this from 2019?
I I mean, he was always quite stubborn when it came to champion picks in draft. He was always really, really opinionated about like, no, like pick me as in 2019 it was like Azir, right? And there would be a week where it'd be like Azir is the most broken, pick me Azir, first pick me Azir, and I'll carry the game. And then the next week it'd be like first pick me Corki, and I'll carry the game. And so he has really strong opinions like that. So yeah, like the team kind of warps around him in that sense. So he does have a lot of impact there. In 2019, when it came to like in-game leadership, I think obviously he didn't have it back then. Like he's not naturally like a super vocal person. He's not naturally like the type of person that's like constantly talking. He's quite like a stoic individual, I would say. Generally speaking, he's quite reserved as a person. But so shot calling is something that he had to learn, and I think he learned a lot of it off of Chachi in 2019. I think Chachi is like insane with a lead when like Chachi's shot calling is really, really good, and that's something that Marek I think copied a lot off of him, of like his style in terms of the way you phrase things to get people to listen to you, the way that you like take over a game and take authority and take command of other people, the way you micromanage people. That's something that he learned a lot in 2019, and in 2020 he was like full on micromanaging.
Okay. One of the things I would ask about is like, actually, I've got a positive thing I want to ask about. I actually think the big positive anyone can see is like actually Unforgiven. The ADC looked really good most of the split. Like, true, like yeah, he was playing a fairly limited champion pool, but he was just playing the best picks. Like those, you could guess what? It wasn't wrong to pick fucking Jinx in half those games. That everyone saw it's a really good champion. And by the way, that goes both ways. Anyone could pick Jinx. I saw plenty of ADCs weren't as good as this guy, mate. So I actually thought for his first split, he did very well.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got like a really bright future. I think he's going to be super good, and everyone gets on with him really well. Like he's really nice to be around. He has like a little bit of a little brother vibe going on with our players already. So, yeah, he's for sure going to have a good future, I think. And honestly, I think it's actually a little bit to his detriment, funnily enough, that the champion diversity was not so good. Even though he's like a really good high resource player, he's really good on Aphelios and Jinx for sure. Like I remember we had 1 week where we played Varus twice. And if you look at his Varus, like, holy crap, his Varus is good. His Varus is really, really good. And I wish this champion had been meta for more of the split. I wish there'd been a bit more diversity there, because I actually think it would have favored him.
Karthus as well, right? I remember hearing from people that he was like one of the only AD carries that actually plays Karthus bot lane.
Yeah, his Karthus is insane. His Karthus is really insane. I remember the first week of scrims we had with him, like every team just banned Karthus. Like, it's like, okay.
All right, nice. I mean, there's one last thing that I would ask about, which is in relation to the mid-game shot calling for your team. A lot of people beforehand, like I talked to Niske a lot. He's on my LEC live views, and he frequently brings up Mad Lions mid-game. Like even last year, he like before he played you guys in finals, he was even like, Mad Lions is fucking insane mid lane. Like these guys, mid-game, they just know exactly what to do all the time. Kaiser and Erlioya are always in the right spots at the right time, and if like they get into mid game, like even down 2-3K, it's like they're winning because they're so confident in what the right plays are on the map. This year, we haven't been able to see that level of mid-game prowess from Erlioya and Kaiser specifically. And it's kind of led to a narrative within the community where people are like, oh, well, it's because Humanoid shot called all of that. Like, they actually were just getting microed by Humanoid the entire time. So I was just going to ask you, is there any truth to that? Like, why do you think the mid-game was that much different? Do you think that a lot of the plays were actually good from them, but, you know, there wasn't the correct response from other players? Or, like, why do you think this situation occurred?
I'd say there's definitely an element of truth to it, for sure. I think Yoya and Rika have had, as I said, like really big shoes to fill this split, because those two are probably like the loudest communicators on our team in terms of just like the number of words they say and their ability to like kind of command people. I think when it comes to mid game macro, honestly, most of the agency is in the solo laners' hands, because like while obviously jungle support have a lot of mobility on the map, the solo laners are the ones that decide, are we 5v5ing? Are we 4v5ing? Are we like going on both sides? Like they're the ones that actually have like the true ability to decide where the pressure is on the map, and the jungle support in theory should be following them. So that's for sure something that like it's undeniable that Humanoid has a big impact there. And I think when it comes to like mid-game understanding, I think Fnatic have been pretty outspoken about this as well, is that he's actually like teaching them a lot. So yeah, for sure. Like I think his like understanding of the mid to late game is really, really top tier. I think he's really good.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.